Yeah, even though announced as from another cola brand, I can't remember which one, so I hope no one is disappointed. That's Pepsi and not Coke you're hearing now from. But regardless, it's all also, Pepsi is also a brand with a long, great heritage, actually celebrating 125 years anniversary this year. And my background, I'm currently, in my current role, I'm responsible for, in Europe, for our marketing tech stack that's largely focused, of course, on ad tech, so paid media, but it also, of course, things are getting more and more connected also with the rest of the tech stack, with other touch points, because, of course, we cannot continue in silos. We have to see like the customer journey and the customer touch points really as a holistic view. And I want to really focus on content. Content has always been my passion for me. I started, or not started, but before Pepsi, I worked for a Korean car manufacturer here in Frankfurt. They are responsible for content and social media, so it was really close to my work for many years. Now the focus is a bit for myself a bit more different, really on the technology that helps us enabling digital communication, digital marketing for Pepsi and all the other brands that are under PepsiCo. And why content? Because content is, I mean, there was for many years, really hype was content is king. Content marketing was one of the forefronts when really digitalization took off into marketing and became an important driver of changing things, how we communicate, moving away from the more traditional channels. And why is it still important, no matter how we are measuring or where we're looking, if it's on really on paid or on websites, if we're trying to identify the single most important part that is driving, for example, ROI or is delivering ROI, it's always content, and it's by far. You can optimize reach, you can optimize different areas of the communication, but it will be the content that is the thing that needs to be improved to move things, to get the best thing. But it also comes with a range of challenges. And at the end, I want to look at also really where machine learning and upcoming, and we heard a lot about already today and yesterday about smart solutions, artificial intelligence, how that can help us to overcome and get, move forward, even with all these different challenges that we have. What are the problems around content? Everyone who's communicating, marketing with the customer or with consumers is sending still too many messages. It's and it has become cheap, and it's we have more and more touch points. We heard car. We had the car already talked about, or the car was a topic also today, was yesterday. I know that from Google, from other platforms, car as an advertising touch point is increasingly becoming into focus. We have to, with smarter cars, we have to concentrate less on driving. Probably it's a chance to ask for a restaurant, ask for a shopping opportunity, and see this is where even more touch points. But that's already, at this point, it's way too much. If you, no matter, I mean, that's probably already a few years old, but even if we're staying in the range between 6,000 and 10,000 branded or product messages for a consumer or for a digital savvy person every day, that's too much to work with. And it has to become definitely more relevant. Otherwise, it's not sustainable for anyone. And sustainable is a good word on that, because it actually is not sustainable. Digital sector, of course, it has to become somewhere. There needs to be systems, there needs to be servers, they need to be powered somehow. It's not all solar or wind energy. There's still also in Europe, but globally, there's still a huge part of traditional energy use. The digital sector accounts for, probably it's now already more than 4% of really the CO2 footprint globally. And looking at digital advertising, 50% of the whole web traffic, everything that is running through our mobile devices or all the devices that we have, is just for advertising. And if we're looking at for only one ad impression or one impression, I'm not sure. I don't know about a web impression. If everyone is conscious of that, really, how much CO2 is generated for one impression for only one of these things. Now, if one consumer gets 6,000 of them every day, still not that much. Maybe driving with the car is adding more CO2 for every consumer every day. But if we're now looking, for example, if you are a large only maybe looking at a European scale, a large advertiser, and you're trying or you're delivering maybe 20 billion ad impressions every year, that, if I'm calculating right, I was calculating it actually earlier, so it should be correct, that would translate into 20,000 tons of CO2 only for digital advertising. So this is something that we are conscious about. We're working with partners. We're asking, how are their servers working? How can we reduce unnecessary wastage, unnecessary impressions, unnecessary engagement with consumers? If we are still communicating, how are we communicating? Can we make it more sustainable? Can we use really tech infrastructure that is increasingly using wind or CO2 neutral power? But even though, and I think that's thankfully one of the advantages, communication has become, on the one hand, still quite cheap, so it doesn't cost that much to deliver this communication to the consumers. They have all more devices, but it also comes with the responsibility to think of, like, is this always necessary to do the message that we want to send out right now? Another problem, that's not so good to see, really across, even if though now once we are delivering the content to a touch point, to one place, is it actually visible? Very important part, is it a valid, or because everyone knows, it can be a bot, is it, can be also like a fraud bot? And for example, maybe a question, what is the second largest income source for organized global crime? Any suggestions? It's quite obvious. It's ad fraud, yeah. It's really ad fraud is with over $100 billion annual revenue lost, or budgets frauded from advertising platforms. I think it will be soon overtaking, I think it's very close already to global drug money or drug sales, the second largest income. Another, of course, topic, we have to check if the content is delivered into a brand-safe environment. We're unfortunately in a time in Europe or globally where one global crisis hits us after another. So we have to know whether, if it's not within our owned media or own platform, if it's like delivered to a brand safe environment, or if it's like with a partner, or if it's already on a news website, is it in a safe environment? Can I track this? Can I understand if it's like the right way? But then you also get to the point, is it actually visible? Even if especially if I have a small display, it's mostly, currently we're looking at mobile screens that are where the majority of the content is delivered to. Then looking at, for something like an MRC standard, is it actually for a human person or for a human consumer then practically feasible to consume it? So is it more than 2 seconds visible? So you actually have a chance to actually see it and comprehend what's put in front of your eyes, to understand it. Social media platforms would argue otherwise. They still say that even if I'm swiping at high speed, I'm not sure what, I think that's an old metric. But I think Meta once said, but it might be 2 years old or something. They said like a typical power user is swiping 60 meters every day on their phone. Like, it's just swiping up, and like trying to move with your finger 60 meters. That's quite long. And they still say people are seeing actually, or comprehending, can understand what they're seeing on their screens. And then when you're getting to the remaining 12%, if someone really watching a video, and majority, especially your TikTok, Instagram, majority is video, are people actually looking into these videos? But actually they are not really watching it to the end. So that's why this is on the end so low. If you would only look this on social media, this 12% would go down maybe to 2%. So that only less than 2% of all the videos on social media actually watch to the end. So people are, that's how you come to the 60 meters. Yet, probably look into another problem, or maybe that's already half problem, half chance. You want to be relevant, no matter where you're delivering something, on a website, on an app, in a paid environment. You want to personalize it for the people. Not always to a point that it really has to be individually. So, this is where communication also for customers or consumers can become a little bit creepy, because if you know too much and you're directly asking, hey, you were looking at this, do you really want to maybe have this kind of product? But it can be meeting up to a contextual relevancy. I remember, for example, I was trying to remember last week when I arrived back in Frankfurt, waiting in the evening at a train station, and train was delayed. So unfortunately, but I had to look at the billboards, or there were so many of them, I couldn't avoid to watch on some of the billboards. But the only ad I think now I can remember was something around after work shopping for Black Friday in Frankfurt. Point was in Frankfurt. Because, of course, they knew it was in Frankfurt. That's why it stuck. Unfortunately, there was something wrong probably with the billboard, because I can't remember which brand was asking me or where to shop for Black Friday. But at least it's the only thing I can remember, because it made kind of sense. It was in the evening, people were coming from work. It was in Frankfurt, and probably, looking at the phone. And it was linked to the upcoming Black Friday sales events. But it can be also, I think, most relevant, for example, for the products that PepsiCo has. It can be demo-led. For example, someone who is responsible at a household for like a larger household shopping, probably it makes more sense to show them multi-packs, show them discounted offers, show them where they can buy something, probably if they're doing like really like a household shopping, versus, for example, a single person or single household that is more looking for a fun alternative. There's this new thing that you can do. Or it can be linked to an interest topic. We are for many years invested into UCL or the Champions League. Of course, people who are really into football and who want to know everything about the players, every more the games, then it makes absolutely sense, of course, to use these kind of assets and communicate to them with these kind of themes. To make it personal. But that also, of course, now we could put the kind of these also old framework that is very long around digital, and you can make it by now almost like an endless chain. The right time, the right consumer, the right moment with the right asset for the right segment, on the right device, in the right format, with the right color, with the right tonality. But that, of course, if you want to do this in these kind of processes, and that's still very much also, of course, the reality for us. You have lots of isolated processes, isolated teams, isolated tools that are not meant to work together. You have, of course, a lot of friction in the processes that are very manual. Of course, there's still probably, I'm not sure, I hope it's much better for most of you, but still probably the most abused application is still email, because it's file delivery, is messaging, is project management. Even though adoption for better tools that are better suited for all these things, especially for content, are more widely adopted than a couple of years ago, but it's still very much like a spaghetti process to get really this all done and get content delivered in the right way at the right moment. Following. What can, now getting to the part of the solution, what can get us on a better path? What is the foundation to improve all these things? We are working largely around the Google stack. Of course, is to really look at the whole tech stack that you're using. How does it work together? At the core, it's about data governance and data management. Can I have all the touch points? Is all the data delivered into the warehouse? Now I have this example into GCP, into the Google cloud platform, then into the warehouse. Does it get organized? Does it get cleansed? Does it get checked? So is it then possible to get not only to pull out the lagging metrics out of it to understand, okay, how was last month's campaign working, but actually getting into a position where we can use it for leading insights, to give me a prediction what will be for the next hour, for the next day, for the next page visits, for the next ad that are delivered, what should be the right content in the right way. To get it into the place and connect it then with the activation platforms from Studio and the content creation. Use Google Sheets really simply to organize and structure what needs to be delivered and organized and distributed and published where. Back then, and of course, I said it in my case often then back to the paid advertisement platforms. So that then would bring us in the position where we want to deliver something on Facebook, have the right content there in place, because if I want to do it otherwise, I have to put everything together. Someone needs to write a briefing to someone who creates the content and deliver. And what's the one thing that is true about briefings? They're not read. One part, yeah, maybe another guess. Or maybe there are multiple truths about briefings, but one thing that we often say is, shit in, shit out. So, they are not well written, they need to be very fast oftentimes, and then they are not read, maybe they're not good written, and then they're not really in depth, really read by some person. So wherever you can, if you have a chance to partly at least to start replace it with something that's a bit more closer to a script, so that you just someone who is managing the process just needs to approve. For example, does the content, does the background fit to the brand image? Do we follow brand guidelines? And can it be checked by a smart script within the platform itself? Can there be a smart script in place that is checking, okay, does it meet with the, for example, Amazon standards to be, of course, not rejected by their ad policy or by their content policy? Does it meet our latest best practice guidelines for product size, packaging, to deliver the best ROI for the platform or the device it is intended to? And I don't need to do this manually, but actually can have a smart script in place that helps us to check against these standards. And we're actually in a good position, and we heard a lot about, of course, what all these smart solutions can do. Cars can talk to you, and many more things. But I still remember I had or still have interest in photo editing. I'm not sure if anyone else has really in the 2000s worked with a tool like Photoshop, where you could manually go around with the mouse an object and try to change the background of something. It always looked quite it wasn't hard to tell, okay, that was photoshopped. I mean, actually it's a term, that looks quite photoshopped. I think probably in 10 years that won't be a term anymore. Probably people won't say that's photoshopped. I think I had a new phone this summer, and I was hiking, and I wanted to send, and it has a new feature, change the background. And it was quite a normal gray day, and that didn't look great. So I simply took my photo, wanted to send it to my wife, and then the sunny background didn't look, so I was like, oh, okay, let's do a thunderstorm. So I changed the background to thunderstorm, took a selfie, sending it to my wife, and she immediately called me and asked, oh, should I pick you up? Are you in danger? She couldn't tell, she wasn't expecting that this was fake. And it took me seconds, just seconds to change it. That's why really definitely the tools are so good. They are, at least in these narrow application areas, they are better. I mean, they are better than anyone with the mouse trying in Photoshop to change any background. And they are different things now. That's why from old Photoshop to know what the Creative Suite on Adobe we're working with, what they can do, putting the right themes, actually enabling these kind of scripts that it meets with brand standards, changing all kinds of backgrounds. For example, changing the imagery to a more nightly atmosphere if I want to send something in the evening and make it work with the context. Or, of course, typical things change actually really to the weather conditions, rain in Frankfurt, better go inside, or go home, watch football or something, That is all what is possible, but really actually I think in these areas the smart solutions are by far better than people. Lastly, I think really where we're not are, before also and of course with Hyundai, but also with Pepsi, not so much involved in content production. And content was super expensive, and it still is in many areas, but it doesn't have to be. It can be much cheaper. I mean, you can literally just put a video request into a prompt, and you get a video, or you take a picture, you get it animated into a great video. What many podcasters or others do, you're recording one take, automatically run a smart script. It takes all the ums and ams that I probably also used over the past minutes, streamlines it into a spoken speech without any kind of delays or hiccups or anything. All is streamlined. When I was beginning, I was also many years ago now working at an agency, creating videos, and it was a pain to create captions for these videos. Someone speaks, you have to write it down, then send it to the company, ask them, is this all correct? No, that should be there. Oh, I didn't say that. Oh, but it's in the video. Okay. You could change the word. You just hit one button. I mean, we know it from Zoom, from other applications. They are live transcripting everything that everyone is saying. You have a protocol from the video. You can do that all in the videos. It's not always for free, but it costs a fraction of what it cost really only maybe 5 or 10 years ago. And it's not yet that we are reflecting that all really in the marketing or communication budgets or costs that we have, but it's definitely an ambition where we have to get to that point. So that's where there are many opportunities really to get content under control with the smart tools that are available. But especially with the spaghetti picture, it's really more likely not that the applications are there. Problem is often really into changing the process and getting the adoption to the level where you can really benefit from these capabilities at the right scale and not only have a nice ChatGPT use case that can you share somewhere. Thank you very much.